7 spine-chilling high school horror stories. Discover the sinister footsteps in haunted halls. Megan Jones wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, stifling a gasp as she peered through the cracked diner window. The fog cloaked Willow Creek like a shroud, hiding whatever darkness loomed in the shadows. Just outside, dim figures exchanged hushed whispers, their shapes twisting and blending into the thickening mist. A spine-chilling sensation crawled up her spine, wrapping around her neck as if the very air warned her to stay back. A flicker of doubt crossed her mind. Could they be watching her? With each routine late-night shift at the diner, Megan's exhaustion mixed with an ever-growing paranoia. The air felt heavier, almost suffocating. Redwood High buzzed with excitement over the prom. Everyone buzzed, except her. Instead of shopping for dresses, she juggled schoolwork and long hours behind the counter, watching families feast on burgers while her dreams felt suspended, like the diner's neon sign flickering in the drizzle. As whispers of students mysteriously vanishing started circulating around campus, her anxiety grew into a nagging dread, an inkling that something was fundamentally wrong. At school, she confided in Mr. Jensen, her favorite teacher, whose warm smile never quite reached his eyes. "Megan, sometimes it's the pressures we place on ourselves that make us feel more paranoid," he said, his voice soothing. But each time he spoke, she sensed something hidden beneath his comforting tones, as if he were holding back crucial truths. The histories of Redwood High loomed like dark clouds, thick with tales of lost souls, drowned in the whispers of students that came before her. Weeks had passed since the first disappearance, but the rumors had twisted into loathsome knots, each more grotesque than the last. The abandoned wing of the school had become a playground for fear, its crumbling walls echoing tales of a star athlete who vanished without a trace decades ago. Megan rallied her closest friends, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Gripped by a mixture of teenage courage and foolishness, they planned to explore the haunted hallways, armed only with flashlights and shaky laughter. As they crept through the battered doors, the air around them thickened. Shadows conspired together, whispering behind their backs. Jessica jumped at every sound, while Tommy bumped into a wall, his flashlight flickering ominously. "Did you hear that?" Megan's heart raced as fear clutched her throat. An echo of laughter reverberated through the damp corridor, waking something long forgotten. The sound felt like a tease, reminding her that danger lurked just around the corner. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Megan felt a cold sweat drenching her palms. Then, one by one, her friends started to peel away, pulled into the shadows, lured by sounds like the depths of their own hearts. Fear sank its claws deep when Megan realized she was alone. The hall seemed to stretch endlessly, the whispers now a cacophony taunting her as she turned, her breaths quickening. Panic surged through her, and that familiar sense of dread washed over her like icy water, chilling her to the bone. Just as she steeled herself for what might come, the power cut out. Darkness engulfed the hallway, plunging her into silence. The only sound was the slow, soft footsteps creeping closer, as if the shadows themselves were alive, ready to consume her. In that harrowing moment, Megan faced the suffocating truth. Something wicked lay in wait, hidden beneath layers of trust and familiarity. The night was only just beginning, and she would have to fight for the chance to escape the grips of whatever dark destiny Redwood High held. Megan's heart hammered loudly in her chest, each thud echoing off the walls and drowning out her own thoughts. She pressed her back against the cold, damp brick, hoping to merge with the shadows, to become a part of the darkness instead of a target. The footsteps grew closer, a slow, deliberate pacing that sent chills rippling through her entire body. Sweat trickled down her spine as she strained her ears, trying to decipher the noises beyond the darkness. "Jessica? Tommy?" Her voice trembled, barely a whisper, swallowed by the oppressive silence. No answer came. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness that screamed danger. She took a step backward, her foot finding an uneven floorboard that creaked ominously, the sound like a cry into the void. In that moment of crippling dread, the ghostly laughter returned, sharper now, like fingernails scraping across glass. It seemed to weave through the darkness, intertwining with her fear. Just as she turned to race back toward the entrance, a chill swept past her, colder than the damp air surrounding her. Something brushed against her shoulder. Turning quickly, she nearly stumbled into a figure suspended in the shadows. Megan? It was Jessica, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. "Where have you been?" Megan gasped, relief flooding her voice, but it was short-lived. Jessica's expression was blank, as if she were not truly there, not entirely present. I heard whispers. They called my name," she said, her lips trembling. Panic bubbled under Megan's skin. "Whispers! We need to get out of here!" Megan pushed past Jessica, who stood frozen, gazing into the void as if entranced. But before Megan could pull her away, a disembodied voice broke the silence, a harsh, low growl that seemed to echo from within the very walls. "Stay with us." The room felt alive, the shadows writhing as if they were sentient beings trying to ensnare her. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, but she couldn't leave Jessica behind. Gripping Jessica's arm, she shook her friend. "Snap out of it! We have to go!" But Jessica remained lost in her trance, her mouth slightly open, as if she was about to utter a name from a forgotten past. They need us," she murmured, her breath hitching. That single whisper lit a fire of panic within Megan. Who needs us? It was then that she noticed other shadows, darker and thicker than the rest, lurking just beyond the edges of the light from her flimsy flashlight. They loomed larger, creeping closer, engorging on fear. "No!" Megan shouted, tugging at Jessica with all her strength. The grip of the darkness around them intensified, clinging to their legs like a wet blanket, pulling them down. Helpless, they both stumbled, and in that instant, Megan saw flashes, faces emerging from the shadows, their eyes hollow, lips curled in screams of silence, pleading for salvation that never came. And then it hit her like a brick to the chest. The rumors, the disappearances. "Tommy! Where's Tommy?" she yelled. But deep inside, an ugly feeling curled its way into her gut, an understanding. Whatever was happening in this cursed wing was more than just pranksters or ghost stories. A very real horror flitted about, hungry and waiting. Megan gritted her teeth, newfound determination igniting within her. "We have to find him!" She pulled Jessica, whose dazed demeanor softened just momentarily, before the shadows lurched again, threatening to swallow them whole. With every ounce of strength, Megan dragged her friend along, weaving through the labyrinth of despair that felt almost alive. The shadows reached out like claws, trying to snatch them away, testing the limits of fear and courage. As they turned a corner, two figures sat at the blackened backdrop, a gleam of white in the murk. "Join us," they sang softly, not in voices of horror, but in sweet, melodic tones that promised peace. It chilled Megan's bones straight through to her soul. In that moment, the choice loomed ahead, whether to fight against the growing darkness or embrace it. Just then, a scream pierced through the air, reverberating off the walls like a siren. And it wasn't just any scream. It was Tommy, echoing down an adjacent hallway, a sound of pure terror. Megan's heart plummeted as she turned to Jessica. "We have to go now!" But as she pulled at her friend's hand, Jessica hesitated again, her eyes darting back toward the shadows. "They're waiting, Megan. It'll be okay." "No, we're getting out of here." And with that, darkness loomed over them, thick and suffocating, as Megan wrestled for control. They had no choice but to plunge deeper into the haunted halls of Redwood High. In the distance, the shadows danced, whispering promises she dared not listen to, as desperation clawed at her throat. What would they encounter next? Could they truly escape the clutches of whatever twisted fate awaited them? Only time would tell. Megan's blood ran cold as the echo of Tommy's scream faded into the oppressive silence. "This way!" she shouted, dragging Jessica with her down the narrow corridor, away from the haunting melodies that beckoned from the shadows. They stumbled through the darkness, the feeble beam of the flashlight flickering dangerously. The air felt thicker, a tangible weight pressing down on them, as if the very walls were conspiring to keep them trapped. Jessica walked in a daze, her eyes glazed over, and Megan had to shake her again to snap her out of it. "Jessica!" Panic set in, and the desperation spilled out. "We need to move! Tommy needs us!" Jessica blinked, but the distant look in her eyes was still there. "They want us to stay, Megan," she whispered, her voice trembling, as if she were on the brink of understanding something terrifying. "No!" Megan snapped, her fear turning to anger. "They want to keep us here. We can't trust them." With her grip tightening around Jessica's arm, she made for the nearest door, half expecting it to be locked or to reveal another horror. But as she yanked the handle, the door creaked open, an invitation to the unknown. The room they entered was small and dimly lit. Old desks were strewn across the floor, papers fluttering like trapped birds in a draft. The dusty air was thick, almost suffocating. Scraps of graffiti adorned the walls, scratched messages that gave a sense of unease. "They take you," and "Don't listen." Thunder rumbled outside, shaking the building as Megan's flashlight flickered again. "Where are you, Tommy?" she called out, the desperation clawing at her throat. A chill swept through the room, and in the corner of her eye, she thought she saw a shadow shift. Her heart raced. "This way!" Just then, a faint voice echoed from beyond the door. "Megan, help me! Tommy!" She darted towards the source, leaving the room behind. Jessica hesitated in the doorway, her face pale, uncertainty painted across her features. "Megan, wait!" She felt a tug on her heart, a sickening longing to look back. Was it the shadows or something worse? But she couldn't abandon Tommy. Leading with courage, she stepped out. "Megan!" The voice cried again, this time filled with pain. It was coming from down the hall. The sound pierced through the darkness, mingling with the whispers that now seemed louder, more insistent. "Come join us." Megan pushed forward, aware of Jessica stumbling behind, caught in the web of whispers. She turned and shouted over her shoulder, "We have to keep moving! Tommy needs us!" But Jessica was trembling, her body swaying as she murmured, "They know us, Meg. They know everything." Tears streamed down her cheeks, and in that moment, Megan feared she was losing her friend to whatever demon was lurking here. "Snap out of it!" Megan yelled, shaking her. The coldness crept back, clutching at Megan's heart while the whispers slithered into her mind. "We're not staying here!" A sudden crash echoed behind them, freezing her in place. The very shadows seemed to swell, the figures at the edges dancing with renewed vigor. They were hungry for souls, their intentions clear in the shimmering darkness. "We have to go now!" Megan screamed, urgency thrumming in her veins. She tugged at Jessica, who finally snapped back to attention, eyes wide. Okay, let's go." Together they rushed deeper into the hall, the scream of Tommy still vibrating inside Megan's head like a haunting echo. "Where are you?" she screamed blindly now, hope mingling with dread. As they turned a corner, a vision of Tommy appeared at the end of the hall, his expression twisted in terror. "Megan, help me!" he cried, voice fading in and out, becoming more distant. And then, from the shadows, the whisper returned, coiling around her thoughts. "Join us. It's so much easier." Megan faltered, thoughts crashing together. Did they dare trust the illusion before them? As the darkness loomed ever closer, Megan faced one terrible truth. Not just their lives hung in the balance, but their very souls. Could they truly save Tommy, or would they become part of the darkness forever? Time was running out, and there was no more room for doubt. Megan's instincts screamed at her as she stood frozen, torn between the illusion of Tommy and the encroaching darkness behind her. "Don't listen!" The graffiti's warning came rushing back to mind like a chilling gust of wind. "Tommy!" she shouted again, her voice wavering. The figure at the end of the hall appeared more solid, almost real. She could see the tears streaming down his cheeks, his hands outstretched as if grasping for salvation. "I'm coming!" With a deep breath, she pushed forward, gripping Jessica's arm fiercely. "We can't let him go. He needs us." But Jessica's eyes were wild, flashing between fear and confusion. "Megan, please, it's a trap." With a sudden surge, Tommy's figure flickered like an old film reel, warping certainty into suspicion. Megan blinked, and the facade began to fade. The whispers returned, an insidious chant, coaxing, promising a release. "Join us." "No!" Megan shouted, yanking Jessica into motion. "We have to keep going, this way!" She felt the weight of every hesitant step, the pull of uncertainty, almost forcing her to join the cacophony that seemed to swirl around them. Suddenly, cold hands gripped her shoulders from behind, squeezing with a suffocating intensity. Megan gasped, twisting around to find nothing. The air buzzed with an unnatural hum, and she saw the shadows gathering, peering through the dim light, hungry eyes twinkling with malice. "Go!" she urged, pushing Jessica ahead. The corridor seemed to stretch forever, each step feeling like they were running into thick molasses. The whispers morphed into laughter, cruel and mocking. "Megan!" Tommy's voice warped again, laced with pain. "Help me! It hurts!" Megan's heart wrenched. She shut her eyes tightly, shaking her head as if that could dispel the horrors around her. "Tommy, just hold on!" They turned another corner, and the dimness spilled into a larger room, a gymnasium perhaps. The sight sent a jolt of dread through her. Old gym mats lay stacked in a corner, and the windows were blackened, blocking out any hint of light. The echoes of their footsteps bounced off the walls like taunts from unseen specters. "Where are you?" she whispered, desperation creeping in. The silence that followed felt too heavy. "Megan!" came Tommy's voice again, more faint this time, as if he were slipping further away. The sound echoed from inside a dim doorway marked with peeling paint, another cruel invitation. "Please, we have to go," Jessica urged, her own voice broken, fear behind her eyes, as if they couldn't stay in the gym any longer. Quickly, they edged toward the doorway, the tension thickening with each step. Megan's flashlight flickered, illuminating the jagged edges of the doorframe. She could feel the shadows lurking behind them, pressing against her, their whispers rising in a frenzy. Suddenly, the flashlight blinked out. Darkness enveloped them. Panic surged as the whispers turned into screams, and both girls stumbled, grappling for each other in the pitch black. "Jessica!" Megan yelled, but her friend was gone, swallowed by the void. "The darkness," Jessica's voice came from a distance. "It's too strong." Megan felt breathless, throbbing panic rising. She spun around, trying to reorient herself in the cacophony of voices. This was it. This was what they'd wanted all along. Separation, chaos. "Listen to me, Megan." The tone shifted, familiar yet twisted, mocking. It was Tommy's voice, but warped with a sinister edge. "You can stay. It can be easy." Heart racing, she forced her legs to move. She stepped into the doorway with trembling hands, desperate to pull herself back from the brink. The air shifted, becoming alive as her flashlight sprang back to life, flickering before steadiness returned. Megan found herself staring at nothing. The room was empty. But was it? A silhouette flickered in the corner of her eye. Something shifted at the edge of her vision. "Tommy?" she called again, dread pooling in her stomach as she stepped inside. "Join them," the whisper came again, clearer now, and she felt the pull, pulling her closer to the darkness that promised acceptance. Was it him, or was it truly a trap? With her heart pounding so loudly, she barely heard the soft laughter surrounding her, nor noticed the shadows thickening, twisting and pulsing as if they thrived on her fear. The shadows lengthened around her, waiting for her next move, and all Megan could do was question. Could she fight back against the darkness, or was she destined to succumb, just like everyone else? Megan's heartbeat thudded in her ears, drowning out the whispers surrounding her. She took a step forward, every instinct screaming to retreat, but the shadows shifted like restless spirits, pulling her.
"Tommy!" she called, her voice trembling, warmth fading from her fingertips. That flicker of movement danced just out of sight. Was it real, or just a cruel trick of the darkness? She felt the urge to follow that fleeting shadow, to reach out and grasp at the hope it represented. But what if it led her deeper into a trap? "Megan!" the voices taunted, echoing her name, a melody twisted and broken. "Join us, it's so easy." The words tangled around her heart, squeezing tighter, suffocating. She felt the world spin, gravity losing its grip as she swayed on her feet, teetering on the edge of surrender. "Get away from me!" she shouted, surprising herself with the ferocity in her voice. The shadows coiled back momentarily, as though stung, and she seized the moment. Turning on her heel, she ran toward the empty gymnasium doors. Each ragged breath fueled her urgency. She could hear the whispers grow fainter, but they still gnawed at her resolve. "Megan, don't leave. We can be together." A shiver traced her spine at the deceitful sweetness of the voice. It was Tommy, his voice, twisted in anguish. Tears stung her eyes as she hesitated, fighting against the swell of emotion clawing at her heart. "Tommy!" she cried again, but this time her voice was laced with uncertainty, vulnerability creeping in. The air turned thick, pressing down on her like heavy mist. Each pulse of fear was a reminder she couldn't let it take her. "I'm not afraid!" she yelled, but the words tasted bitter on her tongue. Then, a loud crash echoed from the far corner of the gym, causing her to jump. "Jessica?" she called, dread pooling back into her stomach. No response, just silence. What if she was truly gone this time? What if she was all alone? The shadows flickered again, more aggressive now. An unseen force tugged at her, urging her to succumb. She turned, wanting to flee, but the gym doors slammed shut behind her, the sound thundering like a death knell. Panic surged anew. There was no way out. "Megan!" The voice was softer this time, dripping with temptation, enveloping her like a thick fog. Breath catching, Megan squeezed her eyes shut, willing the darkness to recede. "No!" she screamed, pushing against the encroaching heaviness. She had to think. "I have to find Jessica." Suddenly, a light sliced through the inky darkness. a weak beam barely illuminating the gym's far wall. With a surge of hope, Megan raced toward it, ignoring the lingering whispers that tried to claw her thoughts away. Each step felt like running through syrup, heavy and slow. The light flickered, then steadied, revealing a monstrous figure at the wall, features obscured in shadow. It grinned, a twisted parody of familiarity, the smile stretching wider as she approached. "Help me, Megan." The voice was unmistakably Tommy's, yet laced with a sinister echo. She halted, heart hammering, each
pulse sounding a warning. "No! Get away from him!" Megan shouted desperately, the clarity of her choice striking hard. But before she could move, the figure lunged forward. A surge of panic propelled her back just as she felt cold fingers brush her arm. "Don't resist," it whispered. "You'll regret it." Flashes of Tommy and Jessica flooded her mind, pulling their faces close, desperately imploring her to reject the horror. With fierce determination, she pushed past the figure, stumbling into the light bursting from the corner. But as she did, everything shifted. The floor beneath her feet became unstable, rippling like a fragile dream. "Megan!" A distant voice pierced the chaos. It was Jessica, but her friend sounded muffled, as if trapped behind a curtain of despair. "Help!" The shadows writhed, angry now, moving to envelop her once more. With a shuddering breath, Megan reached for that voice, willing herself to bridge the gap. She couldn't fail, not now. But just as she felt a grasp on reality, the walls contorted again, and the eerie laughter crescendoed. "You can't escape. You belong to us now." Megan felt herself slipping, the turmoil of the darkness threatening to pull her in infinitely deeper. "Jessica!" This time she choked on the name, desperate and trembling. The gym's walls echoed her dread. Would she ever reach her friend? The shadows closed in, tightening their grip, promising everything but freedom. The line between reality and nightmares blurred again, and Megan's last thought before the darkness completely overwhelmed her was a single, desperate plea. "Please, don't let me go." And then silence fell, leaving the gym empty once more, shadows lingering like vultures. What would become of them now? Cold. That was the first thing Megan felt as her consciousness flickered back to life. A shivering chill wrapped around her, like icy fingers gripping her throat. Darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating. She gasped, trying to draw in air, but the breath clawed its way out of her lungs in a strangled cry. "Megan!" came a frantic whisper from the void. The echo of Jessica's voice broke through the darkness, lacerating the silence, and a surge of adrenaline shot through her. It was enough to shake off the thick haze swirling around her. "Jessica!" she shouted, her voice raw, cracking like old glass. But the shadows stilled, retreating only slightly, bitter on the edges. "You're alone," a chorus hissed, the voices intertwined in a chilling harmony. "No!" Megan bit down hard on her trembling lips, the taste of iron flooding her mouth. The shadows danced in her periphery, taunting her with glimpses of twisted faces, familiar yet fundamentally wrong. Tommy, Jessica. Their distorted silhouettes loomed larger, flickering in and out of focus, as if the shadows were playing a cruel game with her mind. "Megan," a voice, Tommy's voice, dripped with false sweetness. "Come back, we need you." Panic rose in her chest. "What do you want?" she cried out, the words slipping from her lips like a plea. "Where's Jessica?" A sharp, throaty laugh cut through the air. "You have something we want too, you know. What you think you lost, it's not gone." Megan's heart raced. What did they want? The thought clawed through her mind like a wild beast as she stumbled forward, each step plunging her deeper into the abyss. Desperation surged. She couldn't give in to them. As she stumbled, her foot caught on something, the floor, slick and unyielding under her shoe. She fell forward into a face, shadowed yet strikingly familiar. "Why are you running?" it whispered, a chilling smile curling at the corners of its mouth. Tommy's face twisted beneath the weight of darkness, eyes black as coal. "Stay with me, Megan. We can hide forever." "No!" she screamed, shoving past him with all her strength. The shadows recoiled, shrieking like wounded animals. The walls shivered as if reacting to her defiance. Light flickered again, sputtering like a dying star, desperately trying to break free. With a sudden burst of determination, she rushed towards it, willing herself toward the radiance. "Megan, help!" Jessica's voice emerged again, more urgent, filled with terror, echoing from the depths. There had to be a way. She could save her. A sharp pain clenched into her side as cool fingers grazed her skin, pulling her back with insidious force. "Give in. Stop fighting. You can only make this harder for yourself." Megan's breath hitched, a wave of anguish crashing over her. I won't lose you." She reached out toward the light, every fiber of her being straining against the weight of the shadows. They clawed at her, twisting her resolve, stealing the breath from her lungs. Just one step further. But her foot slipped again, and the floor erupted under her in a violent rip. A gaping maw of blackness opened up, threatening to consume her completely. With a desperate lunge, she grasped at what felt like a hand, solid and warm. "I'm here!" Jessica's voice rang clear, stronger now, intertwining with her own resolve. Then a mocking snicker slithered through the air. "You think you can save her. You will only lead her to despair." In an instant, Megan and Jessica were pulled toward the edges of a void, suspended between the whispers of the lost and a sliver of hope. The chaos swirled, trapping them, no escape. "Megan!" Jessica's eyes, wide and frantic, were anchored to the edge of sanity. "Whatever you do, don't let go." The shadows seized them tighter, an overwhelming howling wind rising from below. "You have chosen your end," they cried, the laughter around them echoing, chilling deep within. With adrenaline thrumming in her veins, Megan braced herself. "Together!" she screamed, praying this was not the end. And as the darkness threatened to pull them under, the light surged brighter, morphing into a blinding flash that swallowed their screams. But as the brightness faded, leaving behind only echoes, a single haunting question lingered. What waited for them when they fell? The silence hung heavy. Megan's eyes fluttered open, but it wasn't light that greeted her. She lay sprawled on coarse concrete, the air heavy with a stale, metallic scent. She blinked hard, her body aching as realization set in. The thick shadows still loomed, casting distorted shapes that twisted and swirled around her. "Jess," she whispered, her throat raw, almost feeling the sting of treachery in her own voice. Silence hung like smoke. She pushed herself upright, the cold seeped into her bones. The ground was littered with remnants, broken glass, scraps of paper, and something that looked suspiciously like dried blood. The faint, flickering light overhead struggled against the oppressive darkness, illuminating jagged edges of what appeared to be an abandoned school hallway, the walls lined with peeling paint and graffiti that seemed almost alive. "Megan, don't leave me." Jessica's voice, now softer, echoed from somewhere down the desolate corridor, layered with fear. "Jessica!" Megan scrambled to her feet, adrenaline sparking through her limbs. The echoes of her voice danced and twisted, returning from shadows that seemed to morph and pulse with their own heartbeat. She stumbled forward, each step echoing in the deathly silence. Fear clutched at her chest, but Jessica's pleas urged her on. The air thickened, almost choking her as she approached an open doorway. It creaked ominously, revealing a darkened room piled high with old desks and chairs. In the corner, beneath the faintest sliver of light, a figure slumped, too still. "Jess?" Her heart thundered. As she stepped closer, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Shadows bunched together, forming shapes that curled and darted towards her, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. "You don't belong here, Megan," they cooed seductively, their voices like silk and poison all at once. "Embrace the darkness." Megan shook her head fiercely. "Shut up! Where's Jessica?" The figure stirred, revealing a head of tangled hair. "Megan!" It was Jessica, eyes wide with panic and terror, yet gaining strength. "Help me!" Megan lunged forward, reaching into the dense shadows, grasping at Jessica's hand. The moment their fingers met, a painful jolt surged through Megan, electrifying her veins. "What happened?" "Don't listen to them!" Jessica clawed at the abyss surrounding her. "They're lying! You have to fight!" Suddenly, the laughter swelled around them, cruel and mocking, punctuated by vicious whispers that hissed through the air like venomous snakes. "You think you can save each other? You're both lost." Megan's resolve hardened. "No!" With a swift motion, she yanked Jessica up, dragging her from the shadow's grip. The shadows lashed out, fangs of darkness biting into Megan's skin, the pain tearing shouts from her lips. She gritted her teeth, fueled by desperation. "We'll break free, just hold on." But as they stumbled backward, the ground lurched beneath them, fissures bursting open as if the very earth wanted to swallow them whole. Panic surged, and the whispers that followed were mocking, filled with the thrill of a predator. "In darkness, you find your truth." And then the floor cracked wide, ribs of the earth fissuring outward, pulling them toward a yawning chasm of despair. The light dwindled, replaced by a thick, suffocating black. "Together?" Jessica's voice trembled, almost losing faith. "Yes, together!" With everything left inside her, Megan hurled herself toward the edge of light. They fell, not down, but upward, as if the shadows had been sucked back, unable to sustain them. But the ground was no longer solid, replaced by a swirl, a whirlpool of darkness and light. They couldn't tell whether they were flying or falling. The world spun, their cries echoing everywhere and nowhere. Then sharp clarity sliced through the chaos. "Megan!" Jessica's hand slipped from hers, the pull of shadows greater than her grip. "I can't hold on! Help me, please!" In that split second, all the whispers faded, leaving Megan with one dreadful choice. Could she really save Jessica, or would she doom them both? All around, the darkness tightened, treacherous and seductive. Megan's heart froze, trapped between fear and determination, her mind racing. Could she risk letting go? What awaited them at the brink? Megan's grip on Jessica's hand faltered, fear slicing through her like a knife. "No!" she screamed, desperation fueling her movements. She lunged again, fingers brushing the slick surface of Jessica's wrist. The shadows writhed, coiling tighter, as if sensing hope and feeding on it. "I won't let go." But as she fought to regain her grip, a surreal force tugged at her, like gravity twisting its malice against her will. The laughing whispers pierced her thoughts, gnawing at her resolve. What's one life when you can save yourself? "Listen to us, Megan," the voices hissed, each word a sharpened blade that threatened to sever her spirit. "Together, you could be free. Leave her behind. Let the darkness embrace you." "No, you're lying." With wild determination, Megan shoved her weight forward, pulling Jessica with her, until their eyes locked, two desperate souls grasping onto the fleeting thread of light. Suddenly, her vision blurred, flashes of Jessica's terrified face morphing into grotesque specters. The realization crashed into her. They were not alone. There were more shadows, lingering figures flickering just beyond reach, each more dreadful than the last. Anguished faces twisted in pain, eyes dark and void. "Megan, please!" Jessica's voice echoed, pulling Megan from the brink of despair. "They want to break us apart. We have to fight. It's not just us. There's something worse here." The shadows started to pulse, hungry and wild, as if preparing to descend upon them. A gut instinct surged in Megan, a rebellious spark that she wasn't willing to snuff out. "I won't, Jess. I can't lose you," she gasped, her breath catching. With renewed focus, she tightened her hold, feeling the warmth in Jessica's hand, her only connection to a reality she was on the verge of losing. The pull of the shadows returned, stronger this time, a dark vortex dragging at her soul. But Megan pushed back, her heart thrumming against her ribs like a war drum. "Together!" she called, channeling every ounce of strength she had into those two words. Suddenly, there was an intense flash that lit the darkness, a brilliant explosion that momentarily blinded them both. In that instant, Megan felt something shift inside her. It was an ancient feeling, like a long-forgotten power awakening, stirring deep within. "Focus on the light!" Jessica shouted, her voice strong through their shared panic. "It's real! We can break free!" Megan's mind raced. She could see it now, just ahead, a faint glow shimmering like a beacon amid the chaos. But it flickered, and for a moment she thought it would vanish. Would they forever be chased by the shadows? Could she relinquish her best friend to save herself? "No! We're breaking through!" They hurtled towards the light, shadows clawing at their heels, whispers howling in anger. But then, a deafening roar erupted, ripping apart the silence in one bone-rattling shriek. Chasms widened below them, a colossal maw of darkness ready to swallow them whole. Megan's heart raced, beating like the relentless pounding of a drum. "It's getting closer! Don't stop!" In that chaotic moment, the world around them twisted, their surroundings morphing into a grotesque reflection of despair. Shadows lunged out, sharp claws reaching to grasp them, eager to pull them back into the abyss. Megan fought against it all, fear and terror mingling with the raw determination in her veins. Together, they barreled towards the light, faces set in grim resolve. But as they got closer, the shimmering light contorted, a voice breaking through, deep and resonant. "Only one may pass," it echoed, a solemn proclamation that turned the air thick and sticky like honey. A void opened below them, raw and alive, and suddenly they were faced with the truth of their existence. How could they choose? How could the darkness demand such sacrifice? "Megan!" Jessica screamed, her voice a fragile thread amidst the storm. "We can't let it tear us apart!" And just like that, Megan came face to face with the true essence of their horrifying reality. The choice loomed large, two paths spiraling into the uncertainty of fate. Would they stand together, or be forced to face the dark alone? But before a decision could be made, the shadow creatures surged, pulling them erratically downwards into the looming abyss. The light flared one last time, casting the hallway into an eerie glow, then dimmed as the void swallowed their screams. And in that final flicker of illumination, unnerving laughter echoed, wrapping tightly around them like a noose. The implications of their fate echoing, taunting them as the darkness closed in once more. What awaited them in the depths? The darkness pressed in as they fell, an unsettling silence shrouding their descent. It felt as if time had suspended itself, an endless void,
cruel and unforgiving. The echoes of their screams faded, swallowed by an ever-expanding black. Megan's heart hammered against her ribcage, each beat reverberating with panic. She grasped Jessica's hand tighter, every ounce of her strength pushed into that grip. As they fell, glimmers of broken memories swirled within the shadows around them, flickering like dying stars. Faces emerged from the haze, strangers and familiar ones alike, each contorted in anguish. The people they once knew were trapped in this space, their mouths moving in silent screams. It was a gallery of sorrow, a testament to every lost soul the darkness had claimed. "Megan!" Jessica's fearful voice broke through, threading through the chaos. "We're not alone." The weight of those words clawed at Megan's gut. "I know, but what do we do?" Before she could process the question, a piercing shriek reverberated around them. Shadows rippled and coalesced, forming grotesque figures that reached for the girls with elongated fingers, fangs glinting in the fleeting light. The whispers returned, louder now, taunting them, promising to give them power if only they would sever the bond between them, if only one would let go. "No!" Megan shouted, gripping Jessica's hand like it was a lifeline. "You're not taking her!" Suddenly, the darkness shifted, swirling as if a whirlpool had formed in the air. Megan felt something rise within her, an ancient energy that coursed like electricity. It sparked through her veins, igniting her fight-or-flight instinct. She turned to look at Jessica, her eyes wide with fear, but also a determined glint. "Whatever happens, we face it together. We break this cycle," Jessica declared, her voice cutting through the clamor of despair. The shadows faltered for a moment, hesitating at the girl's unified front. Seizing the chance, Megan summoned all her strength. "Together!" she shouted as the light surged, a blinding wave that pulsed from their joined hands. What happened next felt like an explosion. Power erupted through them, shattering the restraints of darkness, as beams of brilliant light ripped through the shadows, tearing apart the oppressive air. But before they could relish the fleeting hope, the specters screamed, a sound that sank deep into their bones. Their screams turned into a cacophony of rage, as if the shadowy realm had been wounded. "Run!" Megan cried, pulling Jessica forward. But the ground beneath twisted, shifting like sand. They stumbled, grasping the fragile edges of reality, while waves of darkness crashed like a tempest behind them, hungry and relentless. As they sprinted towards the swath of light that began to form in the distance, whispers crowded their ears, urgent, frantic. "One must fall. Offer yourselves." Panic ignited in Megan's chest, slicing through her courage. That terrible ultimatum twisted her stomach. "No, we won't!" The sanctuary of light loomed closer now, almost within reach. Yet as they dashed ahead, a figure emerged at the light's edge. It was tall and thin, silhouetted against the bright backdrop, its presence absorbing the light itself. "Step forward. Only one survives," it intoned, voice echoing with an unnatural resonance that chilled them to the core. Megan skidded to a halt, heart racing wildly. "What do you mean? We don't want to."
"Leave each other!" The figure leaned closer, obscured by the brilliance of the light. "You must choose, but can you truly make such a sacrifice?" A fog of uncertainty rolled in. Could they? Who would they become if the darkness took one of them? The collective fear sent them spiraling back into hopelessness. With no time to hesitate, a thunderous roar pierced through the air. The shadows surged again, reclaiming their hold with desperate fury. Every fiber of Megan screamed to keep moving, but dread anchored her feet to the ground. What if this was their only chance to escape? "Megan, we have to make a choice," Jessica urged, voice trembling as her eyes filled with tears. What awaited them on the other side? Would their bond weather such a storm, or was this the end, a sacrifice too grave to bear? As the shadow beasts drew closer, the pressure mounted, forcing them to confront the unimaginable. What would they do? And how could they ever be free? Megan's heart raced, a war drum echoing in her chest. "Jessica, I can't let you go!" Her voice broke, desperation spilling over like an overflowing glass. The dark figure loomed closer, the light flickering around them like a candle nearly snuffed out. "You have to trust me." Jessica's voice trembled, yet there was a glint of strength in her eyes. "It's the only way." The shadows screeched, their claws reaching desperately for them, tearing at the very fabric of their resolve. "No!" Megan shouted, her grip tightening around Jessica's hand, fear clawing at her heart. The pressure swelled, squeezing the air from her lungs, and the figure's voice filled the space between them, dark and menacing. "What will you choose?" In a split-second decision, clarity broke through the fear. She felt the warmth radiating from Jessica, their bond alive like electricity. "Together!" Something within the shadows shifted, fluttering like a falling leaf before the tempest. The darkness screamed, furious at their defiance. "One must fall! This is the cycle!" Megan took a step closer to the blinding light. "No! We refuse your choice!" Waves of strength surged through them as they pressed forward, hands clasped firmly. Light erupted around them, a protective barrier forming. But the shadows lunged, vicious and relentless. "Leave her! Offer yourself!" "No!" Megan exclaimed, the weight of terror crashing down. "I won't abandon you!" Each word was defiance, vibrating through the air as they stood together in solidarity. "Do you really know what you offer?" the figure thundered, its voice a tempest. "Would you sacrifice your own life just to spare the other?" Time slowed. Megan looked deep into Jessica's eyes and saw the truth shimmering there. They were survivors, forged in a bond that could weather the darkness. "Whatever happens, I'm with you." Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks, determination etched in every feature. "Together!" And at that moment, their hands tightened, heartbeats synchronized, surrounded by love. The light pulsed brighter, it swirled around them, wrapping them in golden tendrils of hope, pushing the shadows back. Megan felt a sharp pain in her chest, a flame igniting her spirit. "We can do this!" With a primal scream, they surged forward into the heart of the light. The shadows writhed, contorting in a tumult of rage and desperation. "No!" they howled, becoming a tempest of terror. But it was too late. The blinding light consumed everything. And just like that, silence enveloped them. When Megan opened her eyes, the darkness had melted away. She found herself standing outside Redwood High, the sun rising on the horizon, painting the sky with soft hues of orange and pink. She was breathless, feeling the warmth of light blanket her like a soothing embrace. "Jess," she called, voice trembling. The air filled with the scent of spring blossoms, sweetness enveloping her thoughts. Behind her, soft laughter rang out. Jessica stood a few feet away, face glowing with radiant light, the shadows having lost their grip completely. "Megan!" She ran forward, enveloping her in a fierce hug, warmth pouring out in waves. The weight of fear dissipated, and Megan squeezed back, heart racing with relief. They had faced the darkness together. They had won. I thought we'd lost everything," Jessica whispered, her grip unyielding, keeping them grounded in an unbreakable bond. "I won't let that happen again," Megan replied, stepping back to look into her friend's eyes. "Not with you, not ever." As they walked toward the school hand in hand, the whispers of the past faded into a haunting memory instead of an echo. The light banished the shadows, bravery blooming bright and clear in their hearts. They reached the entrance, and Megan took a deep breath, determination settling over her like armor. Redwood High wasn't just a place of fear anymore. It could be a place of healing, too. Starting today, they would live not in the shadows, but illuminated by the promise of friendship and courage. You ready for this? Jessica nudged her playfully, a light-hearted smile breaking the heavy morning. Megan grinned. Always. And as they stepped into the familiar halls, though echoes of the past lingered, they faced an optimistic future together, built on strength, love, and an unshakable bond. One chapter closed with the dawning of another, forever binding their spirits against what had once sought to tear them apart. Together, they walked forward, the school year ahead brimming with possibilities. The screen faded to black. Before you go, let me make sure you act fast. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and keep the content flowing. Flood the comments with your thoughts and theories. And please instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need this conclusion. We all deserve a glimpse of hope together. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.